All right, so I think we'll get started. Hi, everyone. This presentation is about more women in research. And I think we need this session because if you look at the room, we have more men and not more women. So more reason to have this kind of talks. And so I'll just give you the structure. I'm going to go over just some background about women in research, basically data about, how women are faring out there in research, and then talk about some of the constraints that women face. And then after that, I'm going to introduce the panelists and of course have them say their names and, talk a little bit about themselves, and then we'll go to the discussion topics. So can I have the next slide, please? All right, so women around the globe are leading groundbreaking research. However, despite their remarkable discoveries, women still represent just 33.3% of researchers globally, and their work rarely gains the recognition it deserves. This figure holds true in developed regions such as the European Union, where women, such as the European Union, where women represent 33% of researchers, and in countries such as Germany, only 31%. Gender differences persist not just in the number of researchers, but also in scientific output and the number of registered patents, whereby women publish less and patent less compared to men. This is more visible in the dismissal percentage of women who have received Nobel Prizes in natural science, where we have only about 4.2%. That is 26 women out of 621 recipients. In economic sciences, that's less than 1%, even less than 0.5%, that is 0.48%. And those are 3 women. And in literature, it's only 2.7%, 17 women. When we dissect this data further by race, we realize that African women, and even worse, those less privileged, are further marginalized in recognition of their contribution to science and research. And some may say that there are women who've received Nobel Prizes, but most of those women are in non-academic areas. Institutions of higher learning, next slide. Institutions of higher learning, a breeding ground of researchers and other scientific discoveries, also has an underrepresentation of women. For instance, only 35% of all higher education faculty globally are women. In the European Union, only 21% of women in academia have achieved the highest academic career level. While there is a dearth of data for many developing countries, country-level statistics in developed countries and some developing countries reflect the aggregate value. For example, in Japan, only 24.7% of full-time university faculty are women, and in Mexico, only 38.6%. For faculty members who have been privileged enough to attain full professorship, just 26% are women in the US colleges and universities, and only 22% in India. So this data is largely for developed nations and some emerging economies, but still the numbers are very reflective. Women face many barriers to their advancement in research. Next slide. This includes the social costs of pursuing further studies, as well as their biological roles as mothers, societal roles of child rearing and caregiving, which their male counterparts do not have to contend with. Lack of access to information about research opportunities, gender-blind institutional policies such as those relating to promotions and publications, lack of access to research grants, lack of mentorship, sexual harassment, bullying, task dumping, gender-based discrimination at work, gender stereotypes, patriarchal and hostile work environments, and in social cultural structures in general, among a host of other challenges. So we're going to talk about some of these barriers that women do face and possible solutions. And those would be from, we are talking that from our heart, from our experiences, and so on. So the panelists that I have before me, I have Georgina Odura, please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Evening. So I'm Georgina Odro. I'm with the University of Cape Coast and I'm a sociologist. So I'm really happy to be in the midst of economists this evening. But then if you're talking about women in research, all the disciplines, be it the STEM, be it the social sciences, be it the humanities, we do end up in research. So I think it's not out of place that I'm in your midst this evening. Thank you very much.
The next panelist is Nsubili Isaga. Nsubili, please go ahead.
Okay. My name is Nsubili Isaga from Tanzania, senior lecturer in the School of Business in the Department of Accounting and Finance. I'm a researcher, consultant, as well as lecturer for over 20 years now. And my research interest is more on entrepreneurial finance as well as gender in business. Thank you.
Our next panelist is Zuhal Eleanor.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Zuhal Anour. I'm from Sudan, and I'm senior researcher at Humboldt University of Berlin. My background is agricultural economics and my work focusing more in development economics and particularly using computable general equilibrium models. So I can say I'm CGE modeler by heart, and I'm more focusing in global south when it comes to the case studies. Thank you. Good evening.
The next one is Omowami Idowo.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Omowami Idowo. I'm from Nigeria. I'm working with the University of Ekiti State University. I'm in economics department. I write on development economy, particularly issues relating to women. Fascinates me the most. Thank you.
Can you go to the next slide, please? That should be the next one, the second slide after this one. All right, so our areas of discussion would include traditional roles and socialization of women, balancing family and research, female role models, biases in publishing, gender biases in selection of grant recipients. So again, we're going to talk about each topic in turn. We'll start with the first topic and then move on to the second one. And each panelist is going to share the experience on that. So we're going to start with the traditional roles and socialization of women and how that impacts the advancement of women in research and in higher education. So I'm going to start with Georgina.
Thank you once again. So as I said, I'm with the University of Cape Coast and with the Department of Sociology, and Cape Coast is in Ghana, so just for country representation. And my interest has been in youth, in sexuality, but also in gender issues. And asking or talking about how gender socialization impacts on women and how we end up maybe in the disciplines we find ourselves. So we'll start by saying that at conception and then at delivery, gendering begins. Now, when most of the time people talk about gendered colors, and sometimes in my class, I tell students that until recently in Africa, we were just about white. When a woman delivers, we are just happy that you've gone through war fronts and you've come out successfully because of the mortality and other things. But now, gradually with globalization and then the impact of westernization, you see women or girls in pink and then boys in blue, and then the gendering begins. And through this, we are impacted in terms of the roles, the expectations, the images, the identities we carry, and it's impacting our disciplines and then our future career. So for example, the colors, as I mentioned, the names that we are given, Georgina is a gendered name. If in our context, or especially the Nigerians, if we talk about maybe Nkechi, I don't know if it's gender neutral, or Uche, it is gender neutral. But if it's George and it is Georgina, it's gendered. And through that, we also continue engendering our children. So gendered names are some of it, the toys they play with. You can play with dolls, others will play with football, and through that, the gendering process continue. This impacts in the various institutions that we also find ourselves in. Sociology, we talk about the social structure. And when we're talking about the social structure, we break it down sometimes to the political institution, the family, and then the home institution. And this is the very first place where socialization starts. And this is gender. So children look at their parents. What is mother and my sister is doing at home most of the time? What are the roles that my brothers and my father are also doing in the house? And through that, we are gendered. In the school system, often the leadership that students take. So in most universities like this, you see that there's a student representative council, which is SRC. You always find the head often being a male. And this transfers. So students or children grow up knowing that when it comes to leadership, it is male leadership, and women are often the assistants. And this, transfer into what we do. So also in the space of school, in the space of leadership, all this gendering continue. And something that is very, very important, and that leads us to this, has to do with what we call the gendered subjects. And this gender subject has to do, that's why we are happy to see few women in economics, because from my perspective, economics is a bit of a masculine subject. So there are subjects that parents and society will tell people that these subjects are for women, these subjects are for men. And then consciously, unconsciously, children end up imbibing these things and then end up doing these subjects. And there are genuine reasons why sometimes parents do that. Because teaching and nursing, for example, they will encourage girls or females to pursue this with the intention that we have these multiple roles awaiting us at home. You're going to be a future wife, you're going to be a future mother, and you need a job that will give you space to contain all these roles. So often young girls are encouraged to pursue teaching, for example, because you close by midday or by 3 p.m. Here we are 7 p.m., 6:30 to 7. How many people are here and how many women are also here? Sometimes genuinely, they may want to be in this space, but their other jobs are calling them to come and then play these roles. When a man is not at home, it's somehow okay. My daughter, when I'm at the office and it's 6 o'clock, she'll look for me. Mommy, where are you? It's already 6 p.m. When that is at work and it's 10 p.m., she has space to contain that absence. So I think I will just pause here and allow my colleagues to also come in. So these are some of the traditional roles that put us in the various spaces and end up in the disciplines we do. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Georgina. Let's move to Zibili.
Wow, thank you very much, Georgina, for your insight. But if also I want to compare with where I'm coming from my tribe, I'm coming from a society which the gender roles have been specified. What are the things to be done by women and what are the activities to be conducted by male? And what is more, of course, difficult is about the women. For example, for me, when I started studying, I want to do science subjects, but the society, the upbringing at home, it is more that science subjects are more for men than women. That one did get my mind. So I was more on the other issues, which I thought that could have been easy as well as accepted for women in my country. So when I was in the university, joining the university, doing accounting, I found that also I need to be good in mathematics. But remember, my upbringing, it was more on the other subjects, which we thought that the easy one for the women may be to understand and to work as well. So that's where I was having a decision, rather to change my course from taking a degree in accounting and then do something in business administration. We were two of us, and then a professor was trying now to advise us, a male professor, that as long as you're not having a strong background in mathematics, you are going to fail in accounting. I would advise for you to change to business administration, which is more on lighter mathematics. But for me, as long as I was brought that you can either be accountant, but not a scientist like a doctor or engineer. So I was like, now I need to change again to the business. So I said, no, I'll try to do whatever it will be for me to ensure that I pass mathematics. So I went an extra effort, try maybe to have more studies compared to others, because I understand that as a woman, I need to go an extra effort for me to pass mathematics. So what I'm trying to say now is like the gender role has very significant impact when it comes to more women in research, more women in academic high level ranks, like maybe having the professors, having maybe the vice chancellors. And of course, I'm happy that here at Ghana University, the vice chancellor, the female, which I was happy that at least maybe she climbed up to the ladder to the vice chancellor, but there are not many, even in Africa, there are few. So due to that, I think that still, as long as our background or cultural issue that female should be more working at home, which I'm doing up to now. For example, even now, I was just talking to my son. He was like, Mommy, I need to do homework. Remember, I'm here. My husband is in Tanzania, but still, I'll be the one to administer what he's doing in Tanzania. I'm happy as a mother, but it requires me to go an extra mile. So if Mel going maybe 2 miles, I have to go 4 miles to ensure that I'm just serving as a mother, as well as being also academician, even though then sometimes we are failing because we cannot climb faster than how the same male they're doing. That is what I wanted to share. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Zimbili. Let's go to Zohar.
Yeah, thank you very much. From my experience, I also had the same as you explained, both of you, that tradition is kind of like playing major role in determining the role of women in my society. I'm from Sudan, and as I mentioned, my background is agriculture economics. And I remember when I applied for agriculture economics, it was kind of like discussion at my family to go to agriculture economics because, oh, it's kind of not a field that you can find your own way. And I remember also in the class, we were only 5 girls and the rest like 25 were like boys. And also, and I remember when I managed, hopefully like at that time, to be the first in the class, the director or the president of the faculty of agriculture, he talked to me, he's like, oh, are you continuing with agriculture economics, or you're going to kind of like doubting me that I'm going to go further with the agriculture economics, or just you get married in some point and leave the academia? And I remember that kind of make me a little bit angry, because it's my job to decide what I would like to do in my life as a woman, but not following the rules or the standards that we have in the society. And now, even if you look now in this room, as you mentioned, only one lady. Thank you for attending that. And also this session is very important, but is in the end of the day when almost of the people, they left because I don't know if the organizer think this session is not important, but it's important because for us, we would like to talk about how we would like to change the society in terms of like looking at us differently, because we have the right to choose what we would like to do. And also we have the rights to express our interest. And even if I took another example in Sudan, for instance, engineering, dominated by men. And even for the application, if you'd like to study mining, it's only for men. Women cannot have that. Nursing, it's only for women. A few men, they can go there. And even if you be, it's not easy because the society does not accept it and these kind of things. And even if you look at, you already mentioned some numbers, if you look at the high ranking positions at the faculty of economics in different countries, even from Germany, which I'm working with, is still men are dominant. And these kind of things, you realize, okay, there is still or like spot to change and to make women more expressing themselves there. But we need to do that together, not only women as women, but it's kind of the society job. So also men, they have to participate of that. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Let's move on to Moami.
Thank you so much.
I'll be talking about so many things, but from where I come from Nigeria, Nigeria is a very religious conscious country. And in a way, it has influenced the way we think, how we do things. Even while growing up, I realized that even if what you want is not in agreement with what your parents want, you still have to agree to that. Because while growing up, I wanted to be an economist. I've been saying that. But my mom wanted me to be what she couldn't be while she was growing up. She wanted to be a nurse, but she couldn't be a nurse because at that time, they were not even training the female children, and she came from a royal family. So she was the only one that went to primary school. So she went to modern school, and that was just that. So the other education she had it in my father's house. So I haven't said that I decided I'll be an economist. She said no. My dad said no, that you have to either be a nurse or you be a teacher. So eventually, the story is long. I ended up being going for my BSc in education. So I did education. Fortunately, I was able to make an headway. I had first class in economics education, basically in faculty of education. And that was how I could actually navigate my way back to what I really wanted from the beginning. So I went to UI. I did master's economics major. Then from there, I did my PhD in economics, and I was able to get a job initially in the Faculty of Education. But later, I transferred from Faculty of Education to economics. But my mom then was thinking that maybe being a teacher will give you time to take care of the family, then do other responsibility at home. But even now, I'm managing the two and I'm doing well with God's grace. Then, in a way, family also tends to change what a child wants or what a female child wants. They also divide, give choice to female more because they believe that the men need more time to read than the female. So while cooking, while growing in secondary school, I have my textbooks. And because I wanted to be an economist, I trained myself in further mathematics all by myself. Because I wanted to become this, and I knew that I have to know something about integration and differentiation. I tutored myself. I was able to go through it, but that board mass. So I started with that, and like that, I was able to navigate my way back to what I really wanted. So there's a way tradition and socialization, family, religion influence the decision.
And Regina actually just reminded me something that probably Afia should learn. We are talking about traditional roles and socialization of women. This session is at the wrong time, right? We are at this point, we are asked to be cooking, we are asked to be taking care of children, preparing them to go to bed. So we cannot blame that women are not here. It's just the wrong time. So I think exactly what you're talking about. So, I mean, the ladies here have shared more things on traditional roles and socialization of women, with Georgina giving us some background from a sociology perspective. So setting for us, a background to be able to share our experiences. I would like to move on to balancing family and research. And again, it reinforces that we don't have women here because those women are balancing their family life and their career life, right? They're at home cooking, they're at home serving their families and so on. So next time, out here, we should have this at the right time where we can have more women, present. So again, I'll just go with the way we are seated. I'll start with Regina to share your experience on balancing family and research.
Thank you very much. Yes. So we've already heard a lot. So I'm an associate professor, and then climbing hasn't been easy. And even in terms of how I started my career, I didn't start as an academic. I started as a university administrator, and then I navigated and then ended up in the academy because that's what I wanted. I wanted the autonomy of an academic compared to being office restricted administrator. So I ended up here. So the question is, how did I do it? And this comes to the navigation or the balancing. And I'm a mom of 4. So definitely also a wife, also a mother, and then we still have the community roles to play. In sociology, Mosa 1993 argued that we have the triple role for women, which has to do with our productive role, which is work in the formal sector like we are doing, which earns us money. Then our reproductive role, which is about care role. It's not just about giving birth, but the domestic roles, managing the elderly. When your mom or your father is sick, how many sons will be asked to go and take care of him? Or her? It's often the women. And sometimes siblings may even be asked to stop their job and go and take care of their parents or grandparents. So this must also classify as the reproductive role. Then we have the community role. Together with my husband, we are both academics. And I always tell him that per social construction, if it so happens that he does not attend a funeral, in Africa, you know the value of funerals. It's such a key aspect of our culture. And if he does not attend a funeral, he'll be excused by the society and the family because he's a man and he's working. But with you as a woman, they can't fathom why you shouldn't be there. And even if you're an associate professor, what is it? Most of the villages, they don't value it. What is it? You're supposed to be here to be cooking with the other women and all that, but you are not here. So this is our reality. How are we balancing it? I personally says that definitely you have to have support systems in place. And I have been very lucky having my mom who is passed. And always I try to work hard in her memory. I always say that she's gone, but her memory lives on. Because combining work and then when I was going, I had my master's and PhD outside. And when I was traveling for my master's, my daughter turned a year old on Thursday. Friday, I was on board the plane leaving. Not because I'm not a sensitive mother, not because I don't have those pangs like, and this girl is now here at Legon. So I told her that from here, I'll come and visit you. She's reading law here. And she's always happy that I've managed to combine, and we are role models to them when we do this. So the combining is never easy. But we always have to navigate and then think about support systems. How are we going to do it so that our homes do not also break? Because we are still Africans, whether we like it or not. And if we achieve, we are very happy to have the first female vice chancellor for Legon. My university started, we had the first in Ghana, and then now more women, and we are always like bragging and very, very happy. But at the end of the day, you are the vice chancellor and your home is broken. Society will still point fingers at you. So we really need to be very, very sensitive in managing this, so that nothing suffers. And if nothing is going to suffer, then we will suffer. Because then the notion of the superwoman, you know, sometimes you are so stressed. And sometimes in my advocacy and presentation, I'm like, it's even like a sin having leisure as a woman. But we are humans, for God's sake. You sometimes want to pamper yourself. You want to be at the spa. You want to be that woman, girly person you used to be. But where is the time? That is our reality, but we still do it. And for a woman to climb to full professor to this, in my university, just this week, we had an inaugural lecture for my pro-vice chancellor, and she's like the fifth. This university was established in 1962. How many women are in there? So the balancing, men help, we really appreciate you, but still society expects women to do more. And because of that, it impacts on our progress, and we have to enact different mechanisms to navigate and still succeed. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Basically, women have to have very good time management. I think that's the first thing. And someone mentioned to me a long time ago that for a woman to be seen as being successful, you first have to be a mother. You have to be married. You have to be successful in your marriage. And if that's not the case, whether you're a president or you achieve the highest that every society can, consider as the highest position, that's not an achievement. If your home is broken, if you're not married, if you're a single mother, and they always use, and I was being told this, of course, long time ago, that they always use you as an example of bad women. If you're successful, for example, you're a VC or you're a president, but your home is broken, the young girls can be, I mean, they'll be told an example of a bad woman. You shouldn't be like that woman. And if we are actually showing young girls, women who are successful, that they don't have a home or they have a broken home, that those are bad women, then surely we are not encouraging them to be successful. So, but then on the other hand, for my male colleagues who are here, when a man is a president with a broken home, that's fine. I see in the US, for example, Donald Trump, who was a previous president and is running to be a president again. This man has the worst ever family that anybody can ever say. And he has the worst characteristics of a human being that you can ever say, but he's still considered as a former president, as a potential president, and nobody looks at his failures as a man, as a father or as a husband. But for a woman, if let's say a woman was standing in his position, then she would be judged on all other aspects except her vying to be a president. So those are things that women have to contend with and we have to live with. And I think it's a little bit more worse in the African context, but we manage, right? Okay, let's go to the Billy.
Thank you very much, Evelyn. It is true that the way people, they are judging us, and I want to talk about myself. When I was lining up for my scholarship for master's, I was in the department, only 2 ladies in that department of accounting and finance is still also dominated by male. So fortunately for me, I was pregnant. So all of the men were there, okay, Sue will not go for the master this year because she's pregnant. They never even asked about it, but they made a decision. But luckily, one of the other lady told me that, Subi, are you sure that you're not going for your master's? I said, no, I'm going. But you are pregnant. I said, okay, I will settle that one. But what I know that I'm going. So in the end, I managed to go, but I left my son, who was one week old. I left him with my mom, and then I went for my master's. So people started calling me all the names, the bitter one, because I left my son. But for me, I'm happy that I had a very supportive family. My mother, my father were there for me that, you know what, Subi, just go and do your master's. We know that this opportunity are coming once. You never know what will happen. But as long as we manage to take care of you, we'll also take care of your child. And of course, now he is in the university, doing very well. So coming back, how do I balance? It's not an easy task because I want to be a good mother to my kids. I want to be a good wife. And I want to be a good daughter to my parents. Like what she was talking about. Sometimes my father now is, of course, undergoing a lot of sickness. So also I need to be there for him because as a daughter. But what you can do, first of all, try to see, for example, with my kids, because I want them at least to understand me, to understand my work, because I know that people are just talking the street, even talking to my kids that, you know what, your mom is traveling a lot. She's not a good mother. But for me, what I'm doing, try to explain to my kids. And whenever maybe they're in holidays and I happen that I have to travel, I usually travel with them. So whenever I'm writing a new project, my kids are like, okay, mommy, so make sure that those schedules are aligning with the holidays so that we can just go together. So to them, it's not like a burden, but it's a good thing that we can fly with our mom because also she's working with the research, with the other projects. But also try, whenever you're at home, try to see on how now you can also try to pamper your husband, ensuring that it's not an easy way, but ensuring that at least you have supporting environment even at home. The cooking systems, the modern one, to ensure that at least you can do something at home. So in the end that you can do it to your university, but also doing at home. But it's not an easy task. That one I can just confirm. For example, now I'm senior lecturer, I want to be a professor. So we have to make sure that how do you do it? How do you balance? How do you deal with the people who are still judging you? You are manemonga, you are not staying at the university. Each opportunity you grab it, but they're the ones who are grabbing it. But as long as you're female, then it's like she's not staying at home, always traveling. But in the end, for me, about the judgment, try to see on how you can judge yourself, because they'll talk. Even if you are not having the kids, you'll say that, okay, she has all the time because she's not married, she's not having kids. So that let her publish, let her maybe climb up the ladder because she's not having anything to do. So it doesn't matter you having kids or you're not having it. You are married or you're not married. As long as a female, if you are not, then you have time. And if you have the kids and the husband, then you're not taking good care of your family. But in the end, it's about what do you want to achieve. Try to see on how you can break that ceiling by ensuring that you focus where you want to go. Because in the end, you have to make sure that your family, they're the ones who are going to understand you, and ensuring that in the end, they enjoy. If you're about the money from the research, let them also enjoy vacation, showing that it's there so that at least in the end, they'll understand and they will support you in whatever you are doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Want to Zohal?
I also agree with my female colleagues that balancing as like your work and being a member family is not easy. From my experience, I had this situation when I was doing my PhD because I did it in Germany and my family, my parents and my siblings in Sudan. And I had very kind of a strong connected family. So imagine like starting your PhD in a new country when you would like to prove yourself. So going to the office early morning, coming back in the early night, and then you would like to sleep and you don't have time to talk, and your parents, they're calling, you cannot pick up the phone, sometimes text them, and then they start complaining about like you are not present. And was not easy because we had a discussion before I start my PhD that I have to be present because it's kind of, I'm the first female in my extended family to go abroad for studying and doing a PhD. So my small family, they accepted that, but my extended family, as you mentioned, we are Africans, so we're well connected. So my grandmothers, they are not agree about me going to Germany alone for studying, but I'm lucky that my parents, they support that. And then I realized in some point I need to talk to my family because they will never understand my situation in Germany. And then we had, I remember, long talk. At that time, Zoom was not around, but WhatsApp. And I tried to explain for them the effort that I'm doing in order to kind of to finish my PhD. But at the same time, I was sad because I felt like I'm kind of like sacrificing my family to do my career. But we agreed that would be like maybe for 2-3 years, but I took 5 years to finalize my PhD. And after that, also when I decided to stay in Germany, because now I'm working as the senior researcher at Humboldt University, was also a discussion because they came again saying, okay, you will not be present even after these 5 years. And I had to tell them, yes, I will be present by visiting you every year for 3 weeks. And for them, 3 weeks is not enough. But unfortunately, this is the time that, so, and also you feel like how you is really stressing out by telling your parents about what you would like to do. And at the same time, being a single is not easy thing because for them, they have a plan for you, as you mentioned, having babies and have a family and so on. But discussing that with African parents, it's not easy. It's really not easy. But I'm happy that I managed to convince my family to give me freedom in that manner. But still, I'm struggling because I'm traveling a lot. And as you mentioned, that also is not things because you are not judging only with your family, but with your extended family, your friends, where everyone who is not against what you're doing. So you feel like there's a pressure because, for instance, I'm in Ghana this week. I will be in Poland next week, and they will be, oh, you are traveling a lot, because they don't know what exactly you do, because research is not like medicine, being like, for instance, a doctor, that you know that you go to the hospital, you do surgery and so on. But research in economics is something they don't understand it and not easy to explain from them. And in some point, I realized it's more about me. It's not about them. And at the same time, I'm trying and to transfer my opinion to the other females, that give them like, okay, just focus in yourself and try to develop your career path, because it's not easy to develop your career path under the pressure from the society and from your family. But overall, it's not easy job, and we are learning from each other how to balance between our being a member of family and also researcher.
Yes, thank you. My experience is quite different from yours. I'm in academics. My husband also is in academics. So in a way, I've been able to balance my work, the family. I ensure that I do most of my work in the office, because if I bring it at home, I may not be able to attend to it. And if I'm to do anything at home, it will be in the midnight, while every one of them must have gone asleep. And I enjoy the support of my husband, maybe because he's in academia. I had academic before him. He was in the banking before he crossed. So we do a kind of shift, cooking shift. We are cooking on Wednesday, I'm cooking on Thursday. Then if we are to work together, at that time also we wake up together in the midnight. We do our work. It helps me a lot taking the children to school. But the aspect of you are traveling a lot, I'm also experiencing that in my place of work. You are traveling a lot, and I've not been to, how many countries have I been to? I've not even done anything. Then you are too conventional, you are too greedy. Learn to sit down. When I look at myself, I look at other female colleagues in academics who I feel that I need to get to where they are. And I feel that I've not really accomplished more, yet they are still talking hate about me, that you are not stable. So most time I will, it's also good to turn a deaf ear to those kind of saying, because the professor that we have now do not have this kind of exposure that we have. I don't have much exposure, but the little I have, they don't have it. Some of them are still analog. They can't even operate computers. So you doing that, it's as if, and they get threatened. Some of them get threatened when they see somebody that is striving to do something different from what they know or what they are exposed to. So that's another thing. Then it's also good for a woman. Although it's stressful to be multitasking. I can be in the kitchen. I have a 4 years old girl. I had to sit her down before I come. That's I have to travel. I'm going to get 4 years old. Mommy is going to Ghana. I will soon come back. It will take me 4 days. Then the other 2 girls, I have 3 girls and a boy. The other 2 girls, they are in secondary school, so you can see the gap. 4 years old, 2 in secondary school. The other boy is in the university. Mommy is traveling. Don't stress your daddy. Make sure you have washed plates, because we do not have a nanny, no house help. We do it by ourselves. I've tried to engage ourselves 1 or 2 times like that, but my experiences have not been good enough. So I've been trying to encourage my female girls to also work alone. So let us be multitasking. Then let them know why we are doing what we are doing. Because there was a time I asked one of my girls, would you like to be a lecturer? She said, Mommy, no, why? So I have to educate her, because there are times she will see me coming back home not feeling so good about what happened in my place of work, or maybe the pressure from home, what I need to put in place. And I had to sit her down, give her another orientation that is not always like that. It's just like this in my place of work. It's not like that elsewhere. So
about can extend to even girls, right? Balancing family chores or their responsibilities at home and their schoolwork. We don't put the same strain on our boys. We tend to call the girls in the kitchen. We tend to send them a lot to do this and that, yet they have homework similar to their brothers, but we don't consider that. So probably that's something that we need to extend to that and have a talk about that. So our next topic is on the female role models. Sometimes we need something to look up to and go to, right? To help us as role models. We'll talk about the role of having female role models in actually advancing our careers and research. I'm going to shift the gear and start with Zumbili, go back and the general business.
We're role models.
Let me start with Zumbili. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, Evelyn, female role models are very important. But unfortunately, I think there are two ways which happens, perhaps to me. There are other which you can try maybe to see on how maybe you can try to engage them. And then their stories, sometimes they end up discouraging you where they are now. Like, yeah, they have climbed the ladder, maybe to the senior full professors, or maybe to be vice chancellor, or maybe any other rank in the government. But when you want to know their stories, it's like it will need to have years for you to be there. So you can be discouraged. But there are other also whom I approached in Africa. And of course, there are some from one of the country in East Africa who she was willing to help. But I think in the end, she was busy with so many things. She was appointed in one of the senior position in the government, so she couldn't do it. But what I have learned that as long as we are not having female professors or maybe female role models who can mentor us or who can mentor maybe even the juniors, then it will be difficult for girls, for the junior researchers or junior lecturers to climb up the ladder to understand what does it take to be there. So I can just, like I said, that was my story for me. So still, I tried my level best to be where I am without having maybe a help from the female mentor, but instead I had a male mentor who mentored me to where I am now. So also maybe also this one calls for our male, we have male colleagues here to see also maybe to be more on the gender sensitive. Still you can see on how we can mentor some female who would like maybe to climb up the ladder. But I understand if you have a female role model, then it's easy because there are some unique issues you are sharing. Like you can see what we're discussing here. There's some issues we are sharing. So it's easy to see how Evelyn managed to be a full professor. So maybe also I can go through the same process and become a professor. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we're going to go to
Yeah, it's really kind of difficult topics because I already mentioned that from my experience, there is not a lot of female in high rankings that I know, but imagine if there are some professors that allowed still, like they have an opportunity to talk to the graduate student, for instance. That will give them an opportunity to know, okay, from her perspective or from her experience, what the challenges they can go through and how they can solve, and at the same time motivate them to get that point. So not stopping at, okay, what the society or the traditional saying that just after you graduate, get married, but you can get married and you continue with your career, but that need to have kind of an example of, I can say, I don't want to say successful, but an example of someone who are in the a high rank position, but at the same time managing or balancing between the family and at the same time his work, her work. And it's not easy because when we look at the African universities, for instance, for Sudan, I know a couple of professors, but at the same time, you realize they kind of like 30% of their time is going for your work, which we can measure it by publications. They are not publishing a lot. They are not involved in projects a lot. And at the same time, you see they are more putting time for their families, but this is not the example or the role models that we can consider for the young generation, because what we would like now to change is not only about us, our generation, but we think about the futures, about the next generation, how the females or the women, they are going to be more in research. And in that, I think I think it's also launched by AFIA, the monitoring program for, I think, PhD students. And I think maybe that will be also an opportunity for the organizer of this conference to think about monitoring for females, because we have association called SAWIA, is basically for economists, female economists from Sudan. And we are kind of supporting that, providing that kind of support, supporting those who are graduating in writing their master thesis or PhD thesis or any kind of paper they would like, just not kind of like having workshop with them, discussing, and then give them that opportunity to think, okay, now you are linking with them professors at United States or at any African universities. But still there is limits because time management. Still, we communicate with a lot of professors, but a few of them, they can reply and they can say, okay, we have that time. So I think this is also something we might, as AFIA, as organization, strong one in Africa, they can provide this kind of support for providing female role models in economics.
Okay, thank you. Well, I tend to have more of male mentors than female mentors. Then at a time, there were insinuations of me having a relationship with them in my place of work. So I thank God for understanding husband. So at that time, I had to look for a female mentor who can mentor me. Unfortunately, the first person I met through LSA, Legal Studies Association, maybe I misunderstood the relationship. So we've been on talking time. She will send opportunities to me and I will respond. So I saw one opportunity like that among those ones that she sent. So I used her as a referee. So I communicated that I've used her as a referee, and she got so angry that I should have asked her before using her as a referee. And this person happened to be Nigerian, but outside the country. So I felt bad. So since then, we've been having that relationship, but not like the way we started. So at that time, I wanted to cut off from this women issues of a thing. I don't want that kind of wahala. So, so recently, I got somebody through Women in Economics Initiative who have been fantastic. We are like friends, and I'm enjoying the relationship. So I also, it also is a learning period for me too, or an experience for me to know that when I become somebody I wouldn't want to become, I should also understand how somebody can feel if you just talk anyhow or you give it silence. So that's what I have to say.
Thank you. I think we've heard a lot. So when it comes to mentorship and role modeling, we can have the formal and the informal one. In our university, for example, when you are appointed, you are given a formal mentor. But sometimes it's also about the relationship, whether it will work or not. When I was appointed, I told you I started as an administrator, and after my PhD, I shifted into teaching. And I had a very good role model or mentor, and we still have a relationship. She retired. She was among the few females who had the full professorship before. And I recall that when I got appointed, she told me that, Gina, this area that you did your PhD in and you are working in, it doesn't mean this is where you're going to continue until you retire. And now I do gender issues in the blue economy, which I didn't used to because my PhD was in gender and sexuality and youth cultures. But now I've moved into blue economy and other areas, which goes back to what she said. So the formal appointed mentor can work, but we also have a lot of informal. And personally, I gel more with guys also because I grew up with my 4 brothers. So I think that with mentorship, you can have both the formal and then the informal. I have male colleagues that I work with closely. We are publishing and other things. And then I have a guy here who is a friend, and he actually invited me into this conference also because there's an economics conference and I'm a sociologist. So, but we are all doing blue economy stuff. So I think that that's it. But the other thing I want to add is that we are also role models to our female students. And then let's remember that at for example, first degree level, there are lots of girls who read economics. And because as a person, when I moved into teaching, a lot of people told me that because of you, I admire you so much, so I'm going to be a lecturer. And some have really achieved that, and I'm happy with that. And I also have a few people who sometimes tells me that being a feminist doesn't mean being single, like all the notions we have about feminists. So you can be a feminist, you can have a family, you can balance all this, and we are role models to people. So I think that we should see this call as a God-given one, and we are impacting so much on society in different ways. So that's a little that I want to say on this topic. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jenna. And I think, if you ask most women, you're going to find that the people they work with are men. Many of them work with men. And so please, male colleagues, you need to be more open to that. There are challenges, these are non-facts, there are challenges because there's some relationships that don't go the right way. But also there are others whereby, our male colleagues are married and you could be discussing something and, the mother at home, the wife at home is not happy about that relationship. So that can be challenges that women face compared to if you have, for example, a female role model, because that won't become a topic. And the other way around, if a man has a male person that he's working with, that won't be an issue at home. So I think those are things that women, we have to, to navigate and, try to find healthy relationships that, both for male and female that we can work with. So we've been talking so much over here. I think before we move on to the last 2 topics, and we are almost out of our time, I would love to hear questions from the audience, to have audience participation and to have, for what we have shared so far. So I think I'll turn on to the audience if you have any questions or your contributions, your comments and so on. And when we can discuss about that.
I have a question, please.
Yes, thank you so much for the wonderful presentations. In fact, I've learned a lot from the engagement and the submissions, particularly on how you are able to balance the household choice with your profession. Yes, I've been to some other gender conference, which was also academic based. And one of the issues was you don't see women collaborating with other women to publish. But often at times you see men collaborating with men to publish, or men and women. But it's solely women-authored publications that have about 3 or 4 women on one paper is scarce. I don't know whether that has crossed your attention, and how can that also help to reduce this kind of gender bias? Your response to this?
Thank you. I was smiling because personally, at least I have about 5, 6 papers that are all women also. And I can share some with you because we are in the same university. My Professor Mansa Pratt that I mentioned, who was my mentor, and a colleague, Karen, she's in at Laval University. We are collaborating. And she arrived in Ghana yesterday. So this morning we crossed. So I was coming to Cape Accra, and she's traveling to Cape Coast. And tomorrow I'll go back, and Thursday we have a workshop for a research project we are doing on women in cross-border trade. So I still have few women that I manage to work with, and we continue to work, and we do publications with 3, 4. We have few of them. Maybe also because economics is comparatively male dominated, I don't know. But in sociology, we still have some. At the end of the day, to me, it's about whom you deal with. If you get along with some women, you work with them. If you also get along with some men, you work with them. That is it. So I always tell people that I'm into feminism, but I see myself as more of a liberal feminist rather than a radical. I don't go female separatism. That's not, my orientation. I work with guys. I also work with women. So to me, it's about whom, but I have few female colleagues that I still work with, and we are publishing together, and I'm happy to share some with you.
I also want to add about this one. It is true that in some of the discipline, you can see that there are more male publishing, also male to male co-authoring a paper than women. So it depends where I want to publish. I remember myself, I wanted to publish one of my paper in the A journal, the high index journal. So to me, we submitted 2 women, and it was rejected, of course, based on so many things there. But luckily, I shared this one of the editor whom I know from the conference, and I was like, okay, why can't you include someone into a paper? Send to someone, because I know that that person wrote in that particular discipline. So I had an email to him that we were doing this. Of course, the paper was ready to be published. So he added his name, of course, changed some few things, and then we submitted again, yet it was accepted. So sometimes it depends where do you want to publish. Is it male dominated? If it is, then you are more likely that if you want to excel, then you have to include it. But I think now is something which we need to discuss to ensure that at least that when even you are doing citation, are you also citing female work, or is more on what about the articles which are there? But are you taking time that also you need to make sure that you publicize maybe women works by citing them? So still issue of gender. So we are still learning on how also gender can be included in all the aspects which we are doing in research and teaching. Thank you.
I'm sharing just my experience. Yes, I would love to publish with women, but unfortunately in my field, CGE modeling is dominated by men. And even when we had a project in Kenya and Benin, and we were looking for a CGE modeler in Kenya, and then we realized it's only one female, and it's even far away from the field. And then we realized in the East African countries there is no female CGE modeler. Even in the West African countries, a few, I think 2 or 3, they are based in United States, they are CGE modelers. So, and honestly, my target now is to convince females to kind of engage in the CGE modeling, and I'm now organizing kind of summer schools. We had one in Sudan and one in Kenya, and hopefully we're going to have one here in Ghana next year, and we're going to targeting females to involve. But as Georgina said, for me, it's more about the knowledge, not about the gender. But at the same time, I would love to have more CGs modeler females.
Let me just add something. Usually, women role, it actually ties in what we have talked about, balancing family life and research, right? Because most women at that stage who would be role models or people that you can co-author with that are more senior in research, they also have family responsibilities. They have other things that, other constraints. So that would be one problem. The other problem is that, okay, male to female work well, Because men, you can meet in a bar and you can talk about research. Women, for me to go meet another female, I either have to go to their home if it's a senior person, or if we are still junior, then probably we are also both looking for a role model, right? Looking for someone to work with. So that could be a challenge. We don't have the luxury of meeting in, in places where men meet, or even be able to stay outside of the home up to 10 p.m. that men can do, and you guys can discuss research in the office or in some other settings. We don't have the luxury. So I think that could be another, constraint. The other one we've talked about, when I look ahead and I see the light, I'm going to go to that light. But when I look ahead and I see darkness, I'm going to run away and go to light, right? So if I see that more men are publishing more, I'm more likely to, to go to run that direction. And that comes to another topic that one of the topic that we're supposed to discuss about biases in publishing. Unintentionally, I do that as an editor. When I receive a paper, sometimes I have to remind myself, I look at a female has submitted the paper and I'm judging that paper already, whether it's of high quality or not. I have to read and see, okay, should I push it to the reviewers or not? But when a man sends in a paper, you are unlikely to have that bias. You are likely to just push it, assuming that that paper is already of high quality. For me, I'm a female editor, so we can imagine what the male editors think. So those are things that we may not be seeing. Of course, you see your paper either accepted or not accepted, but we don't see what goes behind the scenes. So those could be other contributing factors why you're going to find men publishing with men, women publishing with men, and not so many women publishing with women. And I've seen like the women that I've published with, most of them don't have family responsibilities, meaning that either they're married with no children, or their husband, or if they have children, maybe just one child, not so much, or the kids are out of the home. So these constraints make it harder, honestly, for junior faculty or junior researchers to publish with women who are already established, in research. So those are just my 2 cents. Any addition? Can we take another question? Any thoughts, any comments? I see people are tired already, right? Okay, so, next time when this session is scheduled, I think it should be a little bit earlier in the day when people are not so tired than when they're tired. So
Shall we go and pass this female, the chance vice female, the registrar's female, the dark that this female?
that's an interesting.
I probably job this female. Public affairs female. What else?
I think Ghana is a very good example, right? Yeah, we need to. I think it's a unique case study. Yeah, and we honestly we need to use that. Fingers crossed. Okay, for the sake of time and for those who are already tired, we'll skip the last 2 topic that you're supposed to talk about. Let's move on to the last slide, please. So, we would like to continue this conversation, and would like to bring to light this issue that we have fewer women in research. We shouldn't just, ignore it, but we need to talk about it. We have efforts that are being done. Surprisingly, these efforts are being pushed by outsiders. But we need to take the mantle, take the initiative ourselves. And I'm just calling to, most of you, I think, here are University of Ghana, in Ghana. So it doesn't have to be women, even men can do that. So we are calling for a Ghana manifesto on more women in research. So hopefully someone can champion that and get it done. We're also calling for other countries to consider that. In Nigeria, for example, in Sudan, I mean, to have such manifestos on more women in research, because a manifesto actually includes policy and includes a call to action that can be done at the institutional level, it can be done at the government level, policymakers. And this includes things like funding. It includes things, for example, having on the university things like daycares. I mean, I don't have to leave my child at home, coming to school, trying to figure out, you know, who to pick the child from school and all that. But if we had daycares and we had structures that, you know, that accommodate women needs, then that would be great. And that's what the manifesto does, because it calls for action, it calls for policy being formulated to be sensitive about women. It calls for institutions to be mindful about women needs and gender needs and so on. So we also need to, so I'm calling, I mean, for other countries represented, for those who are here, help to spread the word. Basically, when you go to the next conference, if you are engaged in organizing for that conference, please have that session on more women in research, just to, support women effort and basically to think about our girls and our sisters and our mothers and our wives and so on. But more at the institutional level, like institutions of higher learning, there are things that we can do. We need to support women at all levels. For the chair of the department, for example, you need to find ways to support women. You need to be mindful that women are mothers, that women are wives, but we also, aside from having our care responsibilities, we also have our brains, right? We can do things. So don't just assume that because she's a woman, then I should not give her this responsibility, or I should not support her in funding or in different aspects. We can still do that, right? But we just need support with other aspects that can help us to, to be productive in other areas. So thank you so much for listening and for coming.
So just a quick comment, and since you pointed to me, I needed to make a comment. So I think our department is a unique one. When we started as lecturers, we had one female, but as we speak, I think we have about 5 or 6 females. So it means that we recognize the role of females as far as research is concerned. But I just want to make this point as we wind up. When you come to University of Ghana, my colleagues have mentioned the leadership. Even when you come to student enrollment, now I can tell you females outnumber males currently. So I think females 49 point something and male 50 point something. So that is what we have. But I think we need to extend the discussion beyond just the macro level. And that is what I have found. So when I look at the enrollment and then I drill it down, you still have females in areas like languages, in areas like theater, in areas like religion. When it comes to the sciences, engineering, medicine, physics, chemistry, pharmacy, and even the social sciences, you come to, with these days, economics, we are doing better. We don't have that kind of representation. So I think we need to also expand the discussion into that area. When the Vice Chancellor was giving her remarks, I think he made mention of the fact that when it comes to research for women, find them in religion and stuff like that. But when it comes to the sciences, you don't have them there. But then when it comes to grants, the grants are coming from the sciences. So then it becomes a problem in terms of representation of women. So the conversation should not be that, oh, we have women at the helm of affairs and we are all happy and so on. It is important that we drill it down. But we'll be able to get women into all these areas if we start from the basis. I think we always look at affirmative action and then we start from the top without looking at what we call pre-market. So if you want women to be in sciences, you want women to be in engineering, let's say mining engineering and so on, you have to have females in science at the basic level and in secondary school, because that is where we get the input into the top. So if we allow the conversation to be at the top and we don't address the imbalance at the base, we will continue to come and talk about it and will not solve it. But if we start the conversation from the base and we get more female into science, more female into mathematics, then if we want to get females into engineering, into medicine, into physics, into economics, the input is there, you can pick them. But when you are admitting, and economics require mathematics, but we have only male, then that is where the problem is. Thank you.
The comments, and I think we've learned something, and that's for sure, that we need to settle the, because if you're not grooming the kids from primary school to secondary school, we don't expect magic at the tertiary level. So we have to start from the bottom to be able to have this more women, even just in research, right? So yeah, so you're very much right. And by the way, just for everybody else here, we are working on a book. It's still at the foundation level. We haven't written a proposal yet. We set the conversation early in the year, and people are going away for their breaks and other responsibilities. But you're going to go back on the drawing board in October and come up with a proposal and so on. So I really I'll send out, once you have the call for papers and everything, I'll send out to those that I'll be having their email addresses, and you guys can help distribute. And we encourage men to contribute, because women don't have all the perspectives. Men have some of the perspectives that really would make a change. So we'll encourage male contributors, to contribute to that book. The book would be kind of like a two-sided. One side is speaking more about your own experience. These are just shared experience. The other part could be more research rigor with data and all that. So whatever way that would be easier for you to contribute, you can do that. So I'll be sending out that later in the year once we have something, in writing. Thank you so much. If we don't have any other comments and so on, I just want to say thank you to the panelists, for being here, for sharing your experience, and for those who are here for listening to us, and also sharing your perspective. And when we leave here, let's continue the conversation at other conferences, at our universities, at other institutions where we are, to help make a change and to support more women in research. Thank you.
It's a long day. It's a really long day.
So please, may I ask for your audience, before we leave, just a quick announcement. So after I arranged with the hotels around East Legon, we gave some hotel names that they should give you the accommodation at $80. Okay, I don't know where you are staying, but if you are staying in any of the hotels